1975, Freddie, as a result of people asking from throughout the world, could there possibly be a repeat of the Canary Island course? Could another course be held? And Freddie, being the man that he was and wanting to extend his domain, produced another Canaries Island course for a month in 1975. And I was very honoured, and he invited me to go to the Canaries for a month and be an instructor in one of the groups. This was a wonderful opportunity to meet up with people throughout the world in the physiotherapy world. They'd all heard about the 1973 and they wanted a repeat in 1975. I was very fortunate. One of the German doctors who'd attended in 1973 attended in 1975, and he very kindly translated Professor Yanda's work for me into English, and that opened the door for us to realise there was a difference between muscle groups. Later on, at an IFOMP meeting, it was decided in 1980 that New Zealand could be the guest host country. And it fell my lot to try and decide on what type of program we would have. We'd listen to all the learned PhDs give their theories. We'd watched Freddie and Olaf and people from all the world and chiropractors producing their techniques. But we'd never had the opportunity of seeing those techniques or those theories put into practice in a clinical form, clinical way. So I resolved that New Zealand, because we didn't have such rigid laws, could probably put on a conference where all these gurus could treat people in front, on stage, not only just treat them the first time, to interview them and make an assessment, but follow it up day after day. In other words, for 4 or 5 days, they might give 2 or 3 treatments, but there would be a follow-up treatment. Easy to treat someone the first time and make an impression, but to see what the fellow said on the second and third occasion was interesting. So that's what we planned for in New Zealand, and that's what we did. And those proceedings of that conference in Christchurch in 1980 are probably the best clinical assessment that's ever been put on record. That was magnificently done taped by Don McKenzie, and there were a group of people who produced that proceedings. So you had patient by patient assessment by the gurus of the world, Maitland and McKenzie and Carlton Bourne and Syriacs, all doing techniques and assessments. Now, it was my determination that I get Yanda here, Professor Vladimir Yanda. He had opened a whole new world to me as far as muscle imbalances were concerned. So after a WCPT conference and course that I'd been an instructor in at Tel Aviv in Israel, I called in to Czechoslovakia, to Prague, to invite Dr. Yanda, this was 1978, to be the guest speaker. Would he be one of the honoured guest speakers and treat patients? I'd taken a suitcase full of material, brochures and things to tell him what a wonderful country New Zealand was. But he was a big man, and he had polio, and he'd lost all the extensor muscles of his back as a boy. And the only way he could stand was leaning backwards, counterbalancing on his spine. And he reached me at the door with his back extended and reached his hand out and said, "Searle from New Zealand." I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "You want me to come to New Zealand?" I said, "Yes, sir." I said, I'll explain all about it. Oh, no, he said, I don't need that, I'm coming. So it was a waste of time carrying all this stuff all around the world to show Professor Yanda how good New Zealand was. He said, there's only one problem. He said that because so many of my colleagues have defected from Czechoslovakia behind the Iron Curtain, I will have to ask, I can't have my medical credentials certified by Czechoslovakia. He said, I would not be able to treat patients because I wouldn't be medically acceptable. You will have to ask Professor Schmidt, my colleague from Switzerland, to do the actual treatment on the patients. I will do the presentation, but he said, I can't lay my hands on a patient because I won't be recognised medically in New Zealand because there'll be a block on my recognition. So we had to have Professor Schmidt, and he was great value too. All added to the cost, but as it turned out, the conference was a wonderful success. We made a lot of money, and that's the basis of the New Zealand Manipulative Therapy Scholarship money that's available each year.